So, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Dear smart mobility innovators, academia representatives, and the representatives from public sector, I'd like to welcome you to this smart mobility webinar to talk and to think about the best solutions for the mobility to make our cities and towns better. My name is Egi Taisilniece-Ibema, and I'm a representative of LIA in the Netherlands. And LIA is a trade promotion agency equivalent to RVO in the Netherlands, with an office in Amsterdam. And we are here to facilitate your cooperation and exchange of the best practices. Yesterday, both countries marked 100 years of diplomatic relations. And this webinar is a good example how both countries can benefit from their relations and provide better service to our citizens by working together. I want to thank Smart Mobility Embassy to co-organize this event. And I give a floor to Mieke Masselink to share experiences of the Dutch innovation districts. And before doing that, I also would like to show you, I hope everybody, all the speakers have the videos on to see what a great panel of speakers we have today. And the first one is Mieke, floor is yours.
Thank you, Agita. Just checking if everybody's able to see my presentation. Well, good afternoon to everyone that is based in Latvia, and good morning to everyone that's in the Netherlands. We have an hour time difference. Thank you for having me here today. I was asked to share a bit more about the Smart Mobility Embassy community and mobility pilot areas in the Netherlands. My name is Mieke Masselink, and I'm working as a community manager for the Smart Mobility Embassy, where we bring people, knowledge, and expertise from different organizations and countries together. And by having this international community, we tackle challenges from different perspectives and encouraging creative approaches and solutions together. The Smart Mobility Embassy community is hosted by Connect. Connect is a public-private non-profit network for smart mobility and sustainable logistics in the Netherlands. In the Smart Mobility Embassy, we specifically focus on the international opportunities and challenges. So it's about creating business development, but also on the other hand, we want to learn from other countries, regions, and their challenges and approaches and solutions. Just to give you an idea, an overview of the members of the Connect network, consisting both of both public and private parties. Within the Smart Mobility Embassy, we sort of have three pillars.
Pardon, we don't see you. In case you're sharing presentation, it's not shown.
Okay. And now?
Yes, perfect. Yes, great.
Okay. Sorry for that. So as I said, we sort of have three pillars within the Smart Mobility Embassy. One is expertise and insight, where we want to share in an open network together the challenges together. Collaborative initiatives, where we are organizing co-creation sessions, trade missions, but also want to develop and do projects and programs together. And of course, the networking part, the opportunity to meet people that are working elsewhere around the world, and maybe even from a different perspective on the same developments and challenges you might be working on. And therefore we organize networking events. As I said before, we are a network of public and private organizations. We really believe in the power of this triple helix approach. So our community exists of companies, from startups to corporates, government agencies, and knowledge and research institutes. Then shortly, something about the Netherlands. The Netherlands combines a demanding environment, really the need to innovate, and a very receptive and open society with an attractive scale. We're a small country in the heart of center of Europe with a large seaport and a large airport, which makes us the perfect combination for deployment of new smart mobility solutions. Our physical infrastructure is quite advanced. Looking at our logistics infrastructure, we don't only look at the roads, the corridors, but also the inland waterways and the rail connections we have. Also looking at our EV charging infrastructure is very unique because we work with open protocols there, and maybe more related to cities, we also have great cycling infrastructure in the Netherlands. We also have an advanced digital infrastructure, for example, the 4G coverage everywhere. And next to the physical infrastructure for all modes of transport and the high data connectivity, the Netherlands is also organized to support the introduction and deployment of new mobility solutions, where you can see Connect and Smart Mobility as an example for the well-organized ecosystem. But another example is, for example, Talking Traffic, a public-private collaboration for a nationwide deployment of cellular-based CITS services, or in Mobility as a Service, the national policy combined with 7 large-scale pilot areas. And last but not least, regulatory innovation is quite good in the Netherlands. The Netherlands is known for an attractive and open attitude towards regulation and innovations. And a great example that leads us to talking about pilot areas is the experimental law we have in the Netherlands. Since 2019, you are allowed to test self-driving vehicles in the Netherlands on public roads. And of course, there are several conditions and restrictions. For example, the remote driver must always have a valid driver's license, and the test needs to be conducted on a specific road or road section and will have a limited time frame. But most importantly, the feedback regarding the outcome of the experiments must be provided to the Netherlands Vehicle Authority, the RDW. And then I would like to zoom into some centralized pilot areas. One focusing on maybe more on the manufacturing is the automotive campus in Helmond, where they're working on mobility solutions for the future. All this takes place among a network of leading companies, research institutes, innovative startups, and educational institutions working on the automotive field in the south of the Netherlands. Then more on the digital side, we have the KPN 5G field labs, where I would like to address 2 of them. One is the Urban Field Lab, where they work in the city of Amsterdam together with the Johan Cruyff Arena and the municipality of Amsterdam for example, crowd management. And the other field lab in the south, also located at the automotive campus, focused on new technologies for cars. So mainly due to the low latency, 5G is an impulse for advanced and new car technologies. And the possibilities of the 5G network for connected and automated driving are being investigated in this field lab. Then a different one is in the north, located in the north of the Netherlands, where the provinces of Groningen, Drenthe, and Friesland are working together and provide a space and opportunity for specific pilots. The north provides a calm and safe environment for developing and testing concepts, mostly in rural settings. They view that self-driving transportation on rail, air, water, and road is a way to preserve and improve accessibility and livability in these shrinking regions. So this is not the region where all the large cities are. So that about at north. Then I would like to say something about the RDM campus, way more focused on logistics, where they're connecting all the port activities with the smart cities initiatives in Rotterdam. And you can see the RDM campus more as a making space. And then I didn't have enough time to show all the pilot areas, so I added another slide of initiatives and projects in smart mobility that are currently happening. Although I think this is even an old picture of all the pilots in the Netherlands. And I wanted to tell you something about the MAS pilots, Mobility as a Service. In 2018, the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management in the Netherlands secured a framework agreement, which launched 7 regional MAS pilots that can be scaled to a national level. 7 pilots, and then you can think of 1 pilot focusing on sustainability, another one on participation, another one on accessibility in rural areas, another one on cross-border, and every pilot has their own focus. But I really wanted to say today that we're talking about pilots a lot, and that's definitely necessary. But I really see a big challenge in the Netherlands is going from pilots to full-scale solution. So I believe that the pilots in the Netherlands are happening, and that's going okay or fine. But the real issue and the challenge is going from that, doing those pilots to a full-scale solution. And then I wanted to say we've talked about smart mobility, but I want to make you also aware of the broader smart city sense. We have in the Netherlands G4 and G40, where the large 4 municipalities and the larger 40 municipalities in the Netherlands are collaborating with the objective. Their objective is joint advocacy and knowledge sharing, which also makes it easier for the markets to respond because they are aligning, municipalities are aligning their vision and approaches. So yeah, that was my presentation. You're always welcome to reach out if you have any questions, requests, or further interest. And I'm very curious to hear more insights, information about the Latvian developments and challenges today.
Excellent. Thank you, Mika. We take the questions after the next speaker. It will be the first block of very interesting presentations about the pilot territories. And I encourage you to post your questions on Q&A section of this Zoom call. So then I will pick up questions from those and put it in public when the time will allow after each block, and speakers will be encouraged also to answer them in writing in the same part of this Zoom call. So thank you, Mika, and I give you the floor to Lasma Ivaska from VEFRESH, and VEFRESH is the frontrunner of Latvian smart mobility ecosystem. And yeah, the floor is yours to tell about VEFRESH movement and what is current activities of yours.
Thank you, Egita. I will share my screen in just a second. I hope you can see it now. Yes, so my name is Lasma. I represent VEFRESH district. And today I would like to share what has been our journey for the past 2 years, where we have been working with multiple stakeholders to actually co-create this innovation district and start actually getting it into operations. First of all, what is VEFRESH? It all starts with a district called the VEF district, which recently celebrated 100 years. You can see the historical image about 100 years ago. How did it look like? It was an isolated island of industrial premises. Now it is basically a city center. It is 10 minutes from city center, so many more developments have happened. And what we are saying that on the basis of this industrial heritage, we want to also build on the future. And therefore, an initiative was born 3 years ago. It was born informally. 2 years ago, it was established as an organization. But the aim is to redevelop this location as an innovation district. And this is a private organization. We are a nonprofit organization that has been established by the largest technology companies in Latvia, such as Accenture and LMT, the largest telco provider, coming together with real estate developers. And we have also been joined by the academic sector, IT, educational foundation, and cultural venues. Last but not least, we also have signed a cooperation memorandum with City of Riga. So we're very close with the city and their interests. We're working together on this innovation district, as well as Ministry of Economics has also joined our memorandum. So it's a real multiple stakeholder organization. And why it makes sense to talk about VEF district as an innovation district is that once we put all the numbers together, we realize that currently the district employs more than 4,000 IT specialists. And just to put this in a perspective, this is 15% of the total IT workforce. So it's 1 square kilometer large area that has employed 15% of the Latvia's IT workforce. It also creates 40% of Latvia's IT export, and of course is a huge contributor to the state budget through tax. We as an organization work with 4 main things. I will focus on innovation because, of course, if it's an innovation district, this part is completely essential and important. And I want to share three kind of ways or 3 elements that we have been focusing on in the past 2 years of how to create the district and how to actually help smart city companies to get their solutions to the market. And the first thing is about researching the needs of the ecosystem. This is where it all started because, of course, it's easy to say that we want an innovation district and here it will be. But the main question is what actually prohibits you from actually calling the place an innovation district. And the thing that we found out and that all companies were in a consensus about what is the main issue and main problem is that their solutions have to be tested in real urban environments because they have to work in real urban environments. And currently the process of getting your solution from your lab to the street is very painful. It's long, it has a lot of steps. So that is one of the things we focused on. But before, I just wanted to take one step back and also talk about why smart city companies need to test their solutions in real life. Firstly, it is to test your resilience. This is an actual picture from Riga winters. You have to make sure that your solution works in prolonged cold, prolonged heat in the summers, and that it doesn't affect your performance. You have to check, for example, all your artificial intelligence algorithms. Even though you can test them to a very high percentage in virtual environments, you also have to test them in real life. And one of the interesting examples we have had is that last summer, one of the companies deployed a counter solution for cyclists and pedestrians to understand like how many cyclists and pedestrians pass this district. And what they realized after the first few days is that the system thinks of scooter users as pedestrians. So the computer thinks that those are pedestrians that are levitating through the air because they are not on a bike. But from the city perspective, of course, it is the scooter users are more closer to cyclists. So they had to kind of understand how to detect these and how to improve their solution. So I think it's a good example. Checking user needs. There was a big scandal regarding this thing. I will not go into detail as we have limited time. I can answer on chat. Checking your user experience of your solution. And of course, what many think people might not realize also, birds, animals, dogs, etc. They also play a huge role in city environment, and your solutions have to be animal safe, if so we may say. So taking this into account, we talked with the companies and tried to understand the roadmap of actually getting the solution on the street. And this is how the roadmap looks at this point. Please do not try to read everything. It's a horrible horrible situation, but basically it incorporates practical barriers of lack of information, of lack of understanding who is in charge of elements and objects, and also some regulation barriers that make it more difficult. And what we understood, that this process of getting, for example, your camera deployed in the city, it takes about 1 year. And if you're a corporation, of course, you have your legal department, you have your project managers, you have contacts, you can deal with this. But if you're a startup or a small company, or even a student team that wants to test their smart city solution, this is basically unrealistic for you. And because of this, we have been talking about these innovation-friendly zones. So the difference between test beds and innovation-friendly zones is that in test beds, mostly municipality just tries out already tested solutions to see whether they fit their needs. But in innovation zones, those are the more open territories for SMEs, for anyone that wants to try out whether their solution works or doesn't, or needs to be improved. And with this process, this has been again a huge multi-stakeholder process. Our vision is to have a special innovation zone as a concept in national legislation. This is still a work in progress, but I think over the past 6 months, there has been significant improvements and significant progress towards these actual innovation-friendly zones. We have also managed to get this concept included in the National Development Plan of Latvia. But one of the recent developments I want to emphasize is that the city of Riga has already marked out and mapped which 3 innovation zones there will be in Riga. And this is one of them. This is VEF district. The historical picture I showed you is from this region. And as you can see, the district is much larger now. And the city is currently identifying all the public infrastructure objects that are there and understanding the owners and informing them about the process of companies getting engaged with them and using their facilities and their objects to actually test their solutions. So it's removing the practical barriers of testing, which can improve the experience of companies by potentially reducing the time amount needed. So I think it's a great development, great co-creation activity. And last but not least, I also wanted to talk about other programs that we are doing and that I think are very important for startups that want to work in smart cities. We have this new initiative, Urban Mobility Incubator. It'll be a 10-week program that will start this summer. Again, this is together with Riga City and with academic partners and also with co-working partners and funded by EU. And the main thing I wanted to emphasize here is that within this program, the startups will have to think only about the development of their technological solution, but City of Riga will be in charge of the deployment. So the startups will not have to go through this huge roadmap that I marked out as the current setup, because within this with this situation, the City of Riga has come forward and they will actually help startups to deploy this. And I think this is a huge development. I think it's also will help the city to streamline the process internally and to make it better for anyone that is coming to them with similar requests outside of the program. And not to finish off with just talking about the problems, I wanted to also say that there are also some pilots already happening. Some of the startups and some of the corporations have battled through this process. We have street light control systems tested, parking sensors, machine vision solutions, and this is the counter I mentioned that at first did not understand what are scooter users. Now it works fine. And also we have this testing station for IoT solutions created, where LMT and Electronics Institute have already deployed their sensors and gather information about what is happening in the district. 3 conclusions. Firstly, there's a huge gap with what we have in our visions as the near future of cities, or what the smart cities will look like, and with what the actual companies that work here in experience in reality. And I think it's not limited to smart cities, but I think for many of the technological advancements that the legislation is just not keeping up. And I think those countries and those cities that will actively work with this and that will actively push for better and easier innovation legislation, those will be the winners in the long run. Those will be the ones that will have the future vision of drones carrying packages and autonomous vehicles and you name it. So I think it's important for cities to fight for better legislation and for private sector to join in. Secondly, we understand that startups don't really want cities as their primary clients or as their first clients, because they know how difficult it can be to sell something to cities. So I think for cities to change this, and the cities that want to work with startups, they should create either specific programs, focused mechanisms, and elements how to actually get startups interested in their activities. And last but not least, about co-creation, Smart Mobility Embassy already mentioned that the triple helix model is one of the best ones, and we also believe that only in co-creation you can actually make significant change, and you can make the innovations roll out. And I don't believe that one single company or one single startup can change the situation. It must be a joint effort to do this. So that's all from my side. I'm happy to answer questions and share other elements.
Great, Lasma. Thank you so much. Very interesting. I see there is activity happening in the chat already, and that's great. I would like to pose just one question to both Mieke and Lasma. There were questions already sent by you participants beforehand. So one question reoccurring was, how would the company interested to join some innovation project within the pilot project, how they can join? Maybe you have one example, good or bad, hopefully good, how would company from outside of this environment be able to join? Is it some innovation project or some regular event that you, for example, organize, Lasma or Mieke? Maybe you have example in Holland where there is some hub or something that as an instrument where a company can show interest and then join some project.
Yeah, I think from VEFRESH side, we are an open open movement, as we say. So anyone who is interested to join and that has any ideas that they want to actually try out or see whether other companies are interested in, we welcome them to get in touch. We have meetings with our partners about every month where we discuss new developments and also what the future holds. So we like to think of ourselves as a platform for cooperation between different sectors, be it EU projects or internal projects. And I also wanted to mention the incubator project, because it's the applications are open till 31st of May. And if you know any of startups or companies that have actually thought of a new mobility idea that is also related to sustainability, then I would be super happy to hear from them, because I think the chance to easily deploy something in the city, it's a really good proposition, at least in the Eastern and Central European region. So I think I would welcome everyone interested.
Well, maybe to add, I think from the Dutch perspective also, we would like to welcome other parties from outside of the Netherlands. And I think it just starts by knowing each other. So the way that we have a webinar today and get to know each other, I think is a good start.
Perfect. Thank you so much, both. And now we move to the next speaker. And I would like to give a floor to Gins Reinsons. He is the head of Operational Information Center in the city of Jelgava. And he will talk more about cooperation of local governments with citizens and companies. So floor is yours.
Yeah, greetings to everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. Also wanted to say that Lasma had an amazing presentation. I really enjoyed that, checking user experience, where the pedestrians choose a different route for their daily walking, and also that unexpected use of meteorological stations where the bird was sitting. That's what I'm going to talk maybe a little bit more in details in my presentation, since I'm very closely related to fixing and maintaining the city infrastructure. Also, this number 8787, it's for our Jelgava city inhabitants. It's toll free. It's like a support phone number where they can call for any kind of such experiences, where they can just suggest something to fix, or they have noticed some issue in the city which should be somehow changed or fixed. So, okay, without further ado, let me put my presentation in a moment. So, do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, very well. So our inhabitants expect that the city is green, easy to drive from home to work, in daily commute. And this is also Jelgava city animated picture, from the bird eye. And they really in the everyday life, they don't think about how the infrastructure is maintained and how we achieve that the city is clean and easy to use that infrastructure. But we as specialists look on the same picture a little bit different in different layers, and it looks like that. We see a lot of infrastructure elements above surface, under surface, the things which we can touch and the things we can manage only virtually. So one thing is to maintain it. Other thing is to monitor it remotely. And to do so, we have to build huge networks of those systems which are connected to the sensors. And afterwards, all the information should be gathered somewhere. And to gather it somewhere in Jelgava, we built this solution, which we call Operative Information Center. We monitor more than several dozen systems, yeah, and we have different kind of specialists under the same roof. So under the same roof of Operative Information Center, we have dispatchers and the contact center. They monitor the infrastructure element systems, and also they are responsible for civil protection. Yeah. One thing is in daily basis to take care of some minor issues, like maybe some dirt, some pothole in the asphalt, some traffic light has broken, and other thing is like a civil protection when some major accident happened. And at that point also is necessary municipal police, video surveillance inspectors who also are in the same premises, and they can talk with each other. And additionally to that, there's a Jelgava City Municipality Institution, Pilsētsaimniecība, or City Infrastructure Maintainer, yeah. And we also cohabit with a traffic organizer, planner, and geospatial information system maintainer. And that joint competence between them is that if we receive the call from operative center, from operative services like police or firefighters or inhabitant on the contact center that something has happened, our dispatcher asks the video surveillance to turn the camera, and afterwards we make a decision with the traffic planner and also look in geospatial systems what is above at the place of accident. Okay, so this is the place of our dispatcher. Yeah, he has a lot of monitors, 8 monitors, police radio, IP telephony, and a lot of systems to monitor and so on. Yeah, it's not an easy task, but we try to automate it maximum we can, and ask from monitoring systems to deliver as precise emergency calls and messages as possible. Yeah, and also we all the time develop the procedures and instructions to cooperate with other institutions. With other institutions, by that I mean following. On the left side, you see the column of incoming information channels, yeah, which we can gather in such groups as this monitoring systems, GIS, geospatial information systems, civil protection, communication, cooperation partners, yeah, and communication and information flow. I won't specify at the moment, later on we will talk about it. By the following those instructions and procedures, the dispatchers make a decision where to send, where to send the information for decision maker and those who solve the issues. So by that, we manage this operative flow and fast issue solving result. And this is video surveillance room where our policemen sit. And if you see on the both sides, there's a transforming wall of the glass, yeah, which makes we transform it when there's an emergency. In one side there is a policeman, on the other side is a dispatcher. When there's an emergency, then they work as a one team. When there's a daily basis worker, then the doors are closed. Yeah, because dispatchers don't need to know the personal data on some other specific issues the police solve. Okay, smart sensor network. There's a lot of sensors, as I mentioned before, and why I was laughing about this amazing example of the meteorological station, because we have such 5, and the bird was sitting on the sensor which shows the direction of the wind. Yeah, and that's the thing. One is technical, one is weather, second is like wild animals, and also the humans can make some harm to this network. Not only the physical, but also we have to take care of some keeper threats also. Yeah, I won't talk now specifically about those sensors, but it's outside of in the public space and also inside. We monitor a lot of Internet of Things elements. About the traffic data, yeah, we gather the traffic data from different traffic lights and organize the traffic flow through the city. Here you see the 12-hour time report on that traffic flow through one crossroad. I won't go into specifics. Afterwards, you can ask. The next is this traffic movement the time optimization solution for the traffic specialist. He can see in real time and see in the system. Weather condition monitoring. We do that from our 5 meteorological stations, and also and also we monitor what state government gives us, what kind of information and predictions. Also, we acquire information from water storage systems. Yeah. We have also the flood gates to protect city infrastructure from 2 rivers, especially in this springtime when the floods are occurring. 3D flood modeling, as you see in real time. You know, that's a possibility once in 100 years. This is early warning system. Also, when we take the flooded areas, we see households in it. We can choose the area we want to inform. We get the addresses, and afterwards we can inform them. And this is our drone we use to observe the spring flooded areas, and inform Civil Protection Commission about it from live streaming video material. Yeah, because that's extremely valuable information. One thing what you see from the earth, other thing what you see when you from the bird fly. Also interactive map where the inhabitants can put the issues they want to describe what they don't like it or what they would like to fix. Also, in the interactive map, also in mobile application or in this web browser, you can type in Karte, yeah, as K-A-R-T-A, and .jalgava.lv, yeah, and it's in Latvian as map, yeah, and you can just look at it. Or a mobile application, Jelgavas pilsēta. And also we have this traffic conjunction map, which gives the information also to the application ways. Yeah, you can log in or you can.
Gins, I'm sorry to say that your time is up, so maybe you could sum up, please.
Okay, I see that 11 minutes I have, but okay, no worry. Easy, fast going. Also, we have tested last year this automated electric shuttle robot bus. Yeah, and conclusion, short conclusion is that after it was driven 618 kilometers and carried 3,800 passengers. The only thing is that not those devices are a problem. The problem is infrastructure. You have to maintain and make a precise infrastructure so they can work properly. Yeah, and about the electric charging stations also, we have given the pilot places to build such in Jelgava, yeah, in several places. So with these high-speed charging stations, you can charge the car within 20 minutes. Yeah, so that's also such mobility solutions. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gint. I think it's great to see for our business audience, to understand with which data you work and with which data you are open for the solutions from outside. And I think very good insight. Thank you so much. And now I give a floor to Danny Vroomen from Technolution, and that is the consultant engineering company. And I think they have a very good example of their work in Stockholm city. And I think we are all looking forward to hear about that. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me in the seminar. And I did prepare a presentation on both our activities in Copenhagen and in Stockholm City, in which I would like to show you the journey that we have gone through and also the different approaches that those cities have been choosing. So let me share my screen and do let me know if the presentation is working. Is the presentation visible? Yeah, perfect. I think first of all, when you talk about smart cities, there's not one definition that defines what makes a city smart. You can talk about a smart city because they have a lot of academia available in the city. I think in this seminar we are talking more about the mobility side of the smart city. So how can you use that technology to help improve the quality of life, so to say? How does technology make life easier in cities? And I think for me and also for our company, that's at least, when you look at smart cities, it must be for the citizens itself. You must work for the citizens. You must work for creating a livable area to improve the air quality, the traffic flow, just in general to improve the quality of life in the city by making use of technologies, making use of smart technologies. And indeed, in some extent, you will notice that regulation is prohibiting of doing it. And on the other hand, you will notice that the social levels of accepting, for instance, the drones in the city is not there yet. So there's always a balance in terms of what do you want to achieve from a political standpoint? What do you want to accept as a citizen when it comes to technology in your city? And how can you bring that forward? What we've seen in the last years is, and I put them here side by side, two use cases. In 2014, we started off in Copenhagen, where the city is really making a stand when it comes to we want to be carbon neutral in 2025, and we want to do that partly by making use of smart mobility. They have chosen for a path where they, in the beginning, just said, okay, we have 8 themes, and you can write an essay on those 8 themes in terms of how you as a company or organization are looking at those themes to help us as a city to bring smart technology forward. On the other hand, with the city of Copenhagen, we want to become the smartest city by 2040, and they want to do that not just on the environmental level, on the ecological level, but they want to create sustainability also in the financial area, the social area, and the democratical area. So that's becoming a city that's attractive for new businesses, for tourists, having for the citizens itself for living over there. And I think the real aim in both of the approaches are that it's is that they really are looking at how can you create partnerships. When you talk about smart cities, you don't talk about just a company anymore. You don't talk about just the government anymore. You need to create partnerships in terms of how you can work together to make this happen, because there's not, at least we believe, there's not one company in the world who can do this on its own. If you look at that partnership approach, you really saw Copenhagen. They started with what we call the shaping phase, having those 8 themes, having the debates on how those teams look like, and from there come to an agreement, start deploying, and then start using those solutions. From the 8 that they have posed, eventually 6 of them have been implemented, and 4 of them are still active. The city of Copenhagen had a more inside-out approach. They just said, okay, we have been testing some use cases in the last years. Now we want to have first the platform, and when the platform is up and running, we start shaping how the use case is going to look like, how we can help the citizens. So there's the partnership element after the platform has been deployed, which is a completely different approach, both with the same aim and the same goal. And I think in the end, I will also come back if the one is better or worse. Now, if you look at those use case developments, this is an example of 2 of the use cases where we really were in-depth discussions with academia, the city, ourselves, on how to develop those use cases. When you look about traffic signal optimization, every city has traffic signals. What do you want to achieve with it? Why do you want to work with it? And how are you going to do that? By making first these maps, you can also create the KPIs in the end on what will be your control element, in a sense that you can see if you are successful with the deploying of the technology. On the other hand, with Stockholm, they already did some testing in the previous years, and now they just said, okay, we have seen that's going to work. Now we want to work from enabling a platform and then start working with the data and see what the data can bring us. How can we reason with data? Can we enhance that data that it will bring also new solutions? They want to really create that ecosystem that also has been talked about prior around that platform, so that you really can bring the smart city further than just a project that has been deployed in IT platform with some of the ideas on it. I think, when you look at those 2 different roads, there is no right or wrong. I think both of them are really focusing on creating an ecosystem. Both of them are really focusing on, we have a political agenda that we want to achieve. Both of them have made sure in that element that the legislation was in place to make it happen, so that you also from there could really work on it. What we did see, however, and I think that that's really, really, really important, in both cities, there are what we call champions, the people that really want to drive this forward. If you don't have a champion who can make the link between the political goals that has been set within the city, who knows the community on street, but also who has a drive to bring this to a success, it's really difficult to create a smart city. We've started in Copenhagen also with the smart dynamic lighting in relationship to traffic. So on the cycling paths, where they really want to have an increase of light when it came to the cyclist over there. That ended up in, we did the trial, but we didn't do the scale up. So you also always must ask yourself when you talk about a challenge or when you talk about a use case, has it the potential to scale up? If it doesn't have the potential to scale up, why are we doing this now? So that in the end, you also have all those elements in place when it comes to, okay, this is a success in this small pilot environment or in this lab environment. These are the next steps that we need to make to bring it further. The most important thing is create that ecosystem. You want in the end to have a surrounding around a living lab, that where you can do the ideation of new use cases, where you can bring that forward. And I think what's maybe even more important, what many cities don't realize, they already have a lot of stuff available that can help them in relationship to start off with smart mobility. You know, as an example, we just saw in the presentation before us, there was a meteorological sensor available. They have smart lighting, so it's really easy to connect those two that you want to promote cyclists to give them additional green time based on the weather conditions. And that happens for a lot of places in the world. When you look at what's available, almost every city has an app available with information. Weather data is collected on a daily basis. The traffic light controllers are monitored and then even made smart. It's merely also wanted to connect those elements together and then bring it from there further into a smart city and involve your citizens into that. Because that's where a smart city is for. It's for your citizens and not for, I would say, and maybe that's stupid for me to say, but it's not for the technology companies. It's for the cities where you do it for. I think we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Danny. Lots of food for thought. And I think in audience, we have lots of representatives from the municipalities who are busy thinking about it. So I think it's very interesting contribution. And maybe some of the audience can also put in a chat what you think about it and what can you take home from this. And maybe there is a possibility for cooperation with your company, Technolution, from your experiences in other cities. And now is the short time for the questions before the next very interesting part where we roll up the sleeves and listen to the cases and smart mobility company examples. I can promise it will be very interesting. But before that, the involvement of the citizens. To both of you, Gins and Danny, what are the good examples? What works the best to involve in your project, or from your experience, the citizens? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? What works best to involve citizens in the process?
Okay, yeah, I can start off. One of the elements that we've done in Copenhagen is they want to really show additional information to cyclists, where we actually just went on the street with carton boards. What kind of information do you want to have? You know, not sitting in your office and say, okay, you want to have travel times from A to B. Is this then the pictogram that you want to see? It was really the social aspect of getting out on the street, having those interviews with those citizens, and make a mock-up in terms of, this is what we think, what do you think? That really works well.
Very interesting, thank you. And again, maybe you have also example.
Yeah, my example is above my shoulder here now, because this call center, it operates with different those channels, how to communicate. Yeah, and it is very easy for everyone, even for me as an inhabitant, just to call sometimes and say something is wrong there, or I would like to change something. Yeah, and you can do it by calling, by sending just a photo, or by pool, which is done virtually. Yeah, and so that's how we communicate, at least from a perspective of operative information center. But also there is this city development department who makes this community discussions about things where municipality has have the money to renovate some street or some park or something like that. And then it's a different way how to negotiate the ideas.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Now, very good thing to take from this a number and going on streets. Fantastic, great examples. And now we move to the next speaker. So now about businesses and public involvement. The first, I give the floor to Jānis Upmanis from Latvian company Get You Go. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Hello, so I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah.
So my name is Jānis, and I will be speaking about our company a little bit, some experiences with smart cities, some experiences with mobility, with with different communities, etc. So I will, let me start sharing. Need to find the right button, sorry for that. All right. I suppose you can see my screen now,
Yes.
or? Yep, perfect. So yes, so Get You Go, that's the name of the company. And before I would go into the topic itself, I think I need to introduce us and explain a little bit what we do, because teleoperations as a term is not too widely known. Actually, so this is our team. It's four co-founders. Now we have also a couple more guys on board, but this is the team that the first brainstormings about new company, about new startup started about a year ago, actually. And that's the time when we brainstormed a bit. We thought about different competencies, expertise, experiences, what we have, and then we added a couple more brains to the team. And now we believe that we are quite competitive in the general overall market in the area of teleoperations. And what is teleoperations? So teleoperations is basically a remote operation or remote driving of something. Could be a car, it could be a different kind of robotic platform or a military vehicle, or could be any heavy machinery, etc. So operator is sitting in office while the machine or the car is actually on a street. And it could be same city, it could be different city, or it could be actually even different country. So a few of the teleoperations use cases, just to see where it could be used, is of course support and backup for autonomous driving. We are also looking into some examples of car sharing and car rental operations. We are also looking into some use cases with delivery robots and drones to secure the last mile delivery. Also different closed area operations like ports or airports or different storage facilities. We are exploring security and surveillance functions and also some military scenarios. So that's shortly about teleoperations. But what we realized quite soon was that it's not really, well, we do have a good technology. We do have the brains around it, but we can't achieve too much alone. And even though we have the technology, we don't have the way how to test it. So after some Googling and some calls around, we got a lot of comments and reflections from some other people that we should speak with Institute of Electronics and Computer Science, because they are, this is the institute, this is the organization who has done the most in Latvia regarding autonomous driving. So, and that's what we did. So here is a short slide of Institute of Electronics and Computer Science and all the different areas that they do. What we did, we were just looking up some contacts on internet without any warm introductions. And to my personal surprise, was quite nice and welcoming. So we managed to quite easily agree on some meetings. And later on, we had a lot of support from them in different tests and also later on in some demos. And yes, so we are working specifically with the people involved in connected and automated mobility area from Institute of Electronics and Computer Science. And here are a few pictures. So this is the very first demo that we did together with them. They allowed us to use their car. They always had their safety driver in the car, but this was a great success for us. So we had the first brainstorming, I think, in March, end of March, early April. And the demo we managed to achieve was, I think, in June, and the company was only registered in July. So even before registering any company, we had been out there and doing some demos. And also we managed to do, this is the picture for latest demo this winter. So again, the same car, the same guys from Institute helping us out and doing a demo for potential customer in somewhere in Europe. And yeah, so it's nice to have, coming in a way a little bit to my conclusions later on, and also to some of the topics that have been covered by Mika and by Lasma. It's nice to have community, so somebody who can support you. But there I can also do my next or our next kind of challenge that we found out, that even though you have good partners in technology, you also need a place where to test. And this was quite a first bit of struggle, because there isn't really any good places where to test, where to do some demos. So we were lucky enough to be able to have a possibility to use the racing track, Biturniek racing track. And there we could do quite some testing and also some demos. So far about the operations and some of our experience in partnerships. But how do we see teleoperations and how does teleoperation links to the smart cities and to the mobility and all this, one of the main topics of today in a way. So what we believe is that there are way too many cars, and we believe that there is a way how we can improve the situation with help of teleoperations. And there, of course, are quite some different scenarios, but and different use cases. But we are working on specific right now, which I want to share with you as one of examples. So I think it's lately we hear it more and more that private vehicles are standing still about 95% of time, and let's say the car sharing operators, their vehicles are being used much more frequently, much more than 95%, much more than this 5% of time. But still, car sharing operators, their cars are used on average 20 to 30% of time. And the rest of the time, those cars are standing still as well. And one of the main reasons is because we all, or most of us, are busy, sometimes lazy, and the typical commuter is willing to walk up to 5 minutes or up to 500 meters to get to the car. So if the car is not close enough, then he will rather call for a taxi than use a car sharing car. And therefore, we are looking for a way how to implement teleoperations for car sharing. So instead of calling your Uber next time, you would be able to call for your car sharing car, and the operator would bring the car to your doorstep while he is himself located in his office. This should allow car sharing operators to cut or to actually decrease the costs on the stuff or utilize the stuff in a different way or a more efficient way. This should increase utilization of the cars and increase the availability of the cars. And at the end of the day, or in a couple of years, this should allow people to switch more from the personal cars to the car sharing cars. And by that, we hope that the total number of cars would decrease. And what is also important is that most of the car sharing operators are switching to electric cars. And of course, then by serving more car sharing operators with our technology, we would hopefully increase the number of the electric cars on the roads and decrease the total number of cars. So what we are hoping for, what we are thinking is that we would like to have the first teleoperated car sharing experience. I haven't heard yet of anybody who is successfully implemented that in Europe, at least. There's some better legislation in US and some different initiatives in US, but I haven't heard anything like this in Europe yet. And this is one of our small dreams, I would say, to become the first ones who would teleoperate a car sharing car and help some car sharing operators to bring this to life. And as a first step, we are planning to do some city demo in Riga city later this year, together with some of our partners like VEFRESH, LASMA, and Institute of Electronics and Computer Science. And just to sum up, and I think this is quite overlapping with what we heard. So first of all, there are way too many things, especially for startup like us. It's just 4 or 5 persons now that we have in our company. So it's way too much for us, our own, to figure out all the different legislation factors, what is allowed in a city, what is allowed in a country, then multiply that by all the different cities in all the different countries. And therefore, I'm very happy with our community that we have managed to join, like VEFRESH and the Institute, And actually, I think it's because of VEFRESH and LASMA that I'm here, invited here as one of the speakers. So thanks for that. And also what I see is, especially for startups like us, where we have quite a lot of different technology to be involved, it's crucial to have access to different type of testing areas and different kind of innovation districts, because so far we only have the Biturnik racetrack is the place where we can really safely test and try some things. But of course, for the city demo in later this year, I don't know, summer or autumn, hopefully we will have some progress together with VEFRESH and maybe Riga City Council to have it as official demo in the city. And I think that's all, more or less all from my side. And yeah, well, what I wanted to say, I was impressed by Mika's presentation and what you have achieved. So I hope that soon there will be also similar, well, VEFRESH will grow maybe bigger, and or maybe there will be some other organizations where we can in Latvia have much bigger ecosystem around these kind of things. Yeah, so that's in short.
Excellent, Yanni. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was very interesting and example, and happy that you will have a pilot demo in Riga this year. So we are all very looking forward, and I like your ambition. That's the right one. That's the right ambition, to be the first in Europe. So now
Thanks.
I go to the next speaker, Wieland Henriksen, the CEO of the Urban Future, which uses the virtual reality tools to help understand the behavior of the citizens in some new smart mobility solutions. So really curious to hear. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to be in this webinar and to present ourselves. And I'll try to share the presentation right now. Is it visible for everyone?
Yes, we see it. And just before you start, for everybody, there is still a chance to ask questions to the speakers in the chat part or questions and answers part, so other speakers could answer them in writing, so you can benefit more as well, still in the time of our webinar.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. If I correctly recall, I'm the last speaker, so I'll try to put some tempo and some fire in, and maybe I'm coming in with a straight leg, as we would say it in football terms. But the question that popped up to me, is this really all about smart cities, or is that bullshit? Is it about happy cities? And I think that Technolution made some very good remarks that it's actually about the citizens. So my question would be, are you making the best choices? The Urban Future is offering visual technology for all modalities in mobility, traffic and transport, built environments to all stakeholders. And we got two families of products. If you want to understand how people are cycling and how you can optimize your cycling infrastructure, we got an application, CyclePrint, which is heavily used in the Netherlands and can give you some guidelines how to optimize your cycling infrastructure. But what I'm focusing on is the right side, is our SPEX family, which stands for spatial experience. What I got as an input to this webinar is the question or the statement that it would focus on the importance of the community and the municipality when creating and testing smart mobility solutions. Well, just 2 weeks ago, we more or less got similar questions from Poland about their CPK project, where they want to build a new aviation city transport hub. And the question there was, well, we're doing things, but we're not so good in spatial planning. And within 30, 50 years, people look back and say, who the hell has invented this kind of infrastructure? And in general, the people deciding whether it was a success or not is the public, the inhabitants, the visitors. But traditionally, we are evaluating by looking at maquettes, at traffic models, artist impressions. I saw some impressive 3D models from the city of Jelgava. But we can also send people out with carton boards interviewing them. However, I think it could be done differently. And what is important is that everybody has a different perspective. Depending on your perspective, you might see a parrot here or a nice lady sitting on a tree. And imagine on a complex project that it's not only two perspectives, it's a lot of different perspectives. So what we would strive for is that we start with basic plans when planning smart infrastructure. And we would take that into a system where we generate a virtual city. So let's take the digital city where all the data and all the sensing data and layers are connected in a database. Let's take that into a virtual, a visual replica, so that everybody can look on the same model from different sides, whether it's policy, whether it's operational management, crisis management, emergency services, or whatever. Integrate it into a visual model and start the communication, because it's a lot clearer than looking at models. Over here, you would see an analysis that we have done for the city of Eindhoven, and looking at an evacuation of a football stadium of PSV, and the evacuation of the people to the central train station. The movie is very bad, by the way, but I hope it's just on my side. What has been done here is that lighting scenarios have been tested upon their impact on the people flows. So turning on the lights on one side and dimming them on the other side, does that influence the streams? In this system, it's even possible to speed up so that you could start predicting in a crowd management situation what is going to happen in the next couple of minutes. Yeah. Let me take this further. Well, yeah. What you see here is in the lower half of the screen, a typical traffic model called VISM, used very widely throughout Europe, I would say. And in the top left and right corner, you would say see the bird's eye perspective and the first person perspective. And we would typically integrate them. And that means that it's not just about the models and the calculations, whether there will be traffic jams, but taking that to the first person perspective, you could see how people feel it would be. What is their emotion in this situation? We've done that with pedestrian models, with traffic models, and what we could do here is that the analysis that has been done here about pedestrian streams and lighting scenarios from Philips, from a bird's eye perspective, is changed, as you see, into a first person perspective. So we could actually take 100 people in, put them on some VR glasses and put them in this environment and get their feedback on the experience, how they experience this new situation or how they would experience it before we have spent, let's say, 100,000, 200,000 euros in a new project. So taking things from the lab environment to the street, which our first presenter said, or the second one, is very painful, can be made less painful by testing it in virtual reality. Over here, again, the city of Eindhoven, where we have been testing the atmosphere and changes to that, how to make the city center feel nice and what we can do on social engagement. And that's been done with smart lighting and Philips as well in the city of Eindhoven, getting feedback from the people in this virtual experience. But what if you could get your stakeholders better informed in an interactive, fun experience and have them build or fine-tune your city? A couple of pictures, some of them you might have seen already, but what if they could select the types of houses, whether they want more green in there, more water, fountains, street furniture, or whatever. And it might have an impact on price, on social engagement, on accessibility, etc. And that would be shown in a monitor. So a city doing this with, let's say, 250 people or more could justify why they have made certain choices, because this system would monitor and register the choices made by the people, by the audience. So get their feedback on a situation and their choices before it's actually been done. And we can do that using driving simulators, walking simulators, cycling simulators, and integrate them into an environment. The same can be done on this virtual model, that we take it into augmented reality and remote. Everybody could have a look at the same model. You could promote, discuss this model in a project and steering committee, but imagine that this is a whole city where there's a crisis happening. Remote, everybody could take a visual look upon the same situation. So it could be used for crisis management, event management, but even into your daily urban system management. Typically, we would add to VR and AR, we would add gamification to make it a fun experience. So people like to get in there, like to get involved, like to get their feedback. So we could make smart city games for this and introduce it into an urban innovation campus, promotional and informational people pavilions, yeah? Give people online access, mix it together, etc., as you can read here. In the end, it's all about getting a better quality out there for the citizens that make them happy. Do it faster because you don't have to redo a lot of things. So better results while driving down the cost. To give you one example, the province of North Brabant has been experimenting with cycling highways. They spend around 250,000 euros evaluating the signage, whether people could read it. They have been investigating that over a month. They actually got feedback from only 15 cyclists. They have put in the ground 3 different types of fonts on the signage, and again, 250,000 euros. We have investigated behavior of people in the city of Schiedam, how they would cycle, how they like the cycling environment through tunnels under a highway connecting 2 living areas. We have 180 people on these cycling simulators. We got their in-game feedback, and that only costed 40,000 euros. So there's a lot of difference in speed, in cost, in returns, making projects fit better to their citizens and get citizens' input faster and cheaper. That's my message. Thank you. Are there questions?
Very interesting, Wieland, especially the last example of what is the difference, right, for the municipality of one way to behave with involving the target group and the other virtual way, for example, in your approach that you can offer. That's very interesting. We are running out of time, but I would really like to place the last question to Janis and Wieland. You as businesses, what are your biggest challenges to join innovations in your topic made by municipalities? What is the biggest challenge? Why, or it's going well, you just give a call and the municipality says, yes, let's cooperate. What do you see is the biggest burden or the bottleneck to foster this cooperation and to get a better result?
Well, if I can answer first, what I have felt so far is that the hype, the urgency for smart cities is growing. However, all cities, I'm over exaggerating now, a lot of cities feel that they want to get companies, technology companies and startups in. And the attitude would typically be like, okay, we're opening up the city. You start piloting and prove your value to the city in my city. And that's it. However, technology startups are not the Philips or Siemens or whatever big corporation with very big pockets. And if every city wants to pilot in that way, then we can't live up to the expectations. Our pockets are not deep enough, our marketing budgets are too low. So that is a bottleneck. And I have to say that I'm seeing a turning point where cities are actually more driving projects where they're involving startups and simply find a construction to pay for the efforts and get the results out, which is obviously very important for especially young startup companies like ours. So that is one huge bottleneck that I have seen that I would like to mention.
Thank you. And Janis?
Yeah, I think I can only comment about City of Riga at the moment, as we haven't seen the cities as one of our main partners or customers so far. What I know about City of Riga is that I've seen City of Riga involved in quite some hackathons lately, and also I know City of Riga is having some grant programs, which is nice. Then again, the examples like Mika showed, that you have a set of different partners, and also the idea of having specific pilot areas, maybe specific testing areas, test beds, testing infrastructure, where different kind of startups and the other organizations could just easily meet up. I think that's something that I would be happy to see coming out of any city, and that would attract our own local startups as well as maybe foreign startups to come and join these kind of infrastructure and testing areas and innovative areas.
Thank you, Janis. To conclude, I really thank all the speakers. It was very interesting. Good examples for I think the audience. We see already in the chat good comments and answers, and I hope it was also practically useful for the audience and for each of us busy with this topic in our own daily work. Thank you for the high evaluation of this event, where more than 67% says that it was good and very good, and thank you. So that means that it has been useful for most of the audience. We've been more than 100 people in the webinar today, and after webinar, I just encourage both communities of Latvian and Dutch communities to cooperate and make next steps further for the cooperation. We as LIA are here to facilitate. Also, from the participants and from the speakers, we have your contacts. We are not going to give them away, but we are happy to facilitate if you have particular interests and set you together for the further talks and ideas to develop. I'd like to thank the Dutch Embassy in Riga for as a communication partner for this event, and of course I thank Smart Mobility Embassy as a co-organizer. And I would like to also thank Jacques, my colleague, who has put us all in one program and been a great help for this event. This is the end of his experience with LIA office in Amsterdam, and we are happy that he will stay with LIA further in Riga office. So thank you, Jacques, also publicly. All of us, we will receive the presentations from the speakers. All the participants will receive it, and the video recording from this event will be public on LIA YouTube channel. So stay tuned, stay connected, and all the very best with your attempts to make our cities happier. So thank you very much and have a nice day.